by welcoming you all to the Northern Corridor Community Board meeting. And my name is Brandon Williams. I'm chair for the meeting. I'm the representative also for the Auchenlock Community Council. Tonight, the representative from Van El will be taking the meeting notes, which will be circulated in about 4 weeks' time after the meeting to give everybody the opportunity to pick up on any points that they need to action. I think we seem a little sort of lighter on the ground. It could be because people are on holiday, but we have a usual full agenda. And if you're able, Ling, I would be wishing to get the ball rolling with the first item by asking for any apologies that you may know of for this meeting. So are there any apologies that you're aware of?
Yes, Chair, I've got a number of apologies. We have an apology from Ailsa MacDonald from Stepson District Community CD Trust. We've got Pauline McCall, we've got Margaret Kelly, Kenneth Stark, Liz Ward, Councillor McPake, Susan Drummond and Councillor McLaren. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. On that point, it would be very useful if people could put their name and the community or organisation that they represent into the chat bar, because it will make it much easier for the note taker to capture those of us that are present at the meeting. The minutes of the previous meeting were circulated. The previous meeting took place on the 25th of May this year, and hopefully everybody present has had the opportunity to review those. I know that there were some comments that went back in the early days, so I hope those comments have been incorporated in the notes that have been circulated for this particular meeting. And I would also like to bring reference to the action points noted and ask, obviously, if anyone has any comments about those, could they bring them up at this point? So the minutes of the previous meeting, has anyone got any points to make with regards to it? No?
Brandon?
Yes, Alice?
May I express disappointment that the action point regarding the delivery of the education, the presentation from education, has not taken place?
Yes, okay, Alice. And I think that point is being picked up later on in the meeting as well. Thank you for that. Anybody else? Okay. Do we have a proposer for those notes from the last meeting? Somebody that was present at the last meeting? Anybody?
I'm happy to propose, Brandon.
Thank you, Andrew. A seconder?
I'll do it. Brandon.
Can't spot who that is.
It's Colin McIntyre.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you very much. And what we can do is we can move on, and some of the points we'll pick up as we go along. We have an overview from Peter McNally to talk about the local outcome improvement plan updates relating to the different priorities that are relating to the Northern Corridor. Peter.
Thank you, Brandon. Just checking everyone can hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, the subgroups have been set up around the priorities identified within the Northern Corridor Local Outcome Improvement Plan, and partners will be supporting the 6 subgroups ourselves at the council will be supporting the Children and Young People subgroup and the Moodiesburn West one. Our colleagues at NHS Health Improvement Team, Health Inequality subgroup. Colleagues at VANL, the Social Integration and Inclusion, and Building Local Relationships, Trust and Communication subgroups. And Glenboig Development Trust are going to support the Community Transport subgroup. And just very briefly, we've had the initial meetings, and partners are going to do a bit of a feedback about those meetings. They took place about 2 weeks ago. A mixed numbers each one. I'll go through the two that I attended on behalf of the council. Moodiesburn West, there was 6 people at that, and all local people from Moodiesburn and a mix of local elected members and other residents as well. A few apologies, so it was quite promising for the first meeting that quite a number of local people turned up. And a couple of the key issues that they raised was the lack of a local community group in Moodiesburn. They felt that was an issue to take forwards. Also issues around access to community facilities in Moodiesburn, and the need also to maybe look at wider Moodiesburn as an issue. A lot of the issues raised around Moodiesburn West seem to reach out towards wider Moodiesburn, so subgroup members felt that was a key issue. And just touching on the Children and Young People subgroup, there was 5 people in attendance there. And probably the main issue that came up from people was the need to get as many young people around the table initially to get a chat about how they wanted to progress that particular subgroup. So my CLD youth work colleague, Caroline Simpson, is going to organise a meeting of young people with colleagues from Glenboig Development Trust, Cardown Community Meadow, and any other young people that are interested in going along. That meeting's going to be at the Pivot Centre in Moodiesburn, and Caroline and the gentleman from Glenboig Development Trust are going to look at putting on transport as well, so we can get as much representation around the Northern Corridor area at that meeting as possible. So that's just a brief run through of those two. I would ask if you have any questions or queries, if you could keep them to maybe the end when the other partners have gave a wee brief feedback as well. I could maybe ask Camille, if you could come in, Camille, and give us an update on the Social Integration and Inclusion subgroup and the Building Local Relationships, Trust and Communication subgroup. Over to you, Camille.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, 2 meetings actually took place, the ones I'm supporting, and they were very, very good. I've got a brief update here as well. I'd like to thank, first of all, those who were present and shared their actually updates, which was very, very important. So I'll start with things that has been discussed, and what has been actually agreed was the need for the group to provide true feedback on the community issues. The fact that older people are a treasure reservoir of experience that should be utilized in the area and locality. Venues where social integration can happen. We discussed also the need for asset mapping and other sources that can be used as well. The need for better recognition and support for community leaders. Community solution program, we discussed that, and the opportunity to get funding for local groups. And also we discussed the need of investment in the Northern Corridor. That would be for social integration and inclusion subgroup. There was also a building local relationship, trust and communication subgroup. And on that one, we discussed past and present timeframes for information and actions. That was important to mention actually the work that has been done, and they need basically to move things actually forward faster. The need for planning for short and long term, and based on the work plan, and the need for work plan, development plan that we will utilize in the future. Accuracy of the minutes for the meetings, and space for improvement in relation to trust. We discussed all that, and the need for also recognition for volunteers' hard work along past years, and not just recently. So that's very detailed feedback, but I thought it's worth actually mentioning. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Camille. Gabby, I think you've managed to get on. Gabby Mitis from the Health Improvement Team. Gabby, I wonder if you could give us, first of all, a brief update on the Health and Equality subgroup. I know you're also going to give your Health Improvement Team update as well just now, and a brief introduction and presentation about from the Tobacco Control Team. So over to you, Gabby.
Yes, thank you, and apologies, I was late, but I had difficulties to join the meeting. Really short free updates from my team. And on LOIPS, we had our first meeting on 8th of August. And we've got a couple apologies for that meeting. We are hoping for the next one, community members can join us. And I'm planning to send another date after 19th of September. Because I'm on annual leave in the next 2 weeks, and I would like to invite community members to join such an important subgroup. Because we only had like our partners on the meeting for this update, what I would like to say that the main driver for health inequalities is poverty. And before you join our subgroup, I would like to think about that, how we can tackle that within our Northern Corridor community. And this is what I would like to discuss on the next subgroup meeting. And also we would like to suggest a taster session for health issues in the community course. That session will be discussed on the next subgroup meeting as well. When we can do that. And yeah, just would like to invite community members to join the subgroup and discuss these important issues. My next update, it's on tobacco control in Lanarkshire. And my second apologies, I was sent this presentation last minute and I wasn't aware that we are presenting the update on tobacco control, and I believe another community board asked for that update. What I will do after the meeting, I will send you the presentation, what I just received, and individually for your reference. Yeah. No, I thought that someone's asking something. Okay, but what I will do, I will send you the presentation after the meeting to committee board members. And please note that for your reference, the most important information will be on page 6, 7, and 9. The presentation is quite lengthy. I won't talk about that all, only a couple of things what I would like you to remember from that presentation. About the smoking in Lanarkshire, we are on track to achieve projected 16% of smoking prevalence in Lanarkshire. It's not ideal. We were in our strategy is 11%, but it's much better than 10 years ago when it was 25%. What is important in that numbers as a North locality in general, we are achieving our targets, but only for SIMD 4 and 5. And it is important that we together put some effort into tackle the smoking and control tobacco use within SIMD 1 and 2, because these numbers are very low. And in our locality as well, and in Northern Corridor as well. It really takes a community effort to tackle tobacco use. How we do that? Through education, through promotion, through community events, through engagement and consultation. And because I was talking about page 6 and 7 for that presentation, I will give you some updates on services we provide just very quickly. We have specialist services, Quit Your Way. It's pregnancy service, pharmacy service, partnership and promotion with other services like parenting and with period poverty and oral health. We just join efforts with other services to tackle smoking. The pregnancy service, we have trained nurses to work with women in pregnancy. And the best results we are getting from pharmacy, but we also have a specialist service for 12 weeks support. And this is when we would like to go into SIMD 1 and 2 with the specialist support for 12 weeks courses. We have tobacco control training, and what is very positive for Northern Corridor area, we have positive smoke-free role model project, and just recently the landed organization have received funding to do the project within Christon High School. And we are planning to finish the project in December, and after that the report will be distributed to community board members about the project. We also deliver Jenny and the Bear Swim Time program. It's about reducing secondhand smoking. And as I said, another interesting information for you on page 9 within that presentation is how you can be involved in supporting our campaigns and key messages. We have our social media campaigns, and within the presentation you will get an email address to a person who can share with you all materials you need for social media campaigns. You can get all information from Quit Your Way website, and also became a positive smoke-free role model. If the community board would like to be interested in that project, I can talk that in details in the future meetings, or we can talk about that all within our subgroup, because one of the problems within health inequalities is smoking, especially within SIMD 1 and 2. And I think that will be enough of me talking through that presentation. As I said, it's lengthy. I will send you that presentation, and please, if you have any questions, contact me directly. If you are interested in any of the trainings or updates more in details, please email me and I will provide that, or I will contact our tobacco team to do that for you. And my third very quick update, what recently we have been achieving as a health improvement. Let me look at my notes quickly. Yes, our communication update. We are sending weekly bulletins about all updates from health improvement. If you are not getting these updates, can you please email me your email address, and I will add you to our distribution list. We are sharing different trainings and promotional materials, not only from NHS, but also from third sector organizations and other partners. And just give you an example of one of the trainings we recently promoted is mental health first aid. We shared dates for this training in June. We had such a fantastic response from third sector organizations who would like to take part in the training that we organized another couple dates in September and October, and they were booked very quickly because we shared the other dates as well. And because of that, I would like to take your interest in different trainings we are promoting. If you see something and you are interested, but you try to book, but you don't get a place, please contact me directly. Then I can speak to people who organize the training if we can get more dates. We just finished a street soccer in Moodysburn, but we are waiting for the report. It will be distributed when I get that report. We also would like to offer you stigma-free Lanarkshire workshops. I'm talking I'm talking about different community groups, not to the community board, of course, if the community board wishes to get that workshop, but it's quite lengthy as well. But it's open to all community groups, how to reduce stigma, and we are delivering this workshop. Yeah, I think that will be everything for me just now. It's every 3 months something new come up, and I would like to stress that our approach is population-wide. We are not working with individuals as a health improvement team, and we can't achieve our outcomes in isolation. and we welcome any community group to approach us for any training, promotion, speaking to the group, and we will come in and work in partnership with any group. Thank you.
Chair, just before I ask Christine McNally to come in and just give a very brief update about the community transport subgroup, if it's appropriate after that, could we get the further updates from partners from Van El, Police Scotland and Scottish Fire and Rescue, and that would complete our Lloyd priorities update, if that sounds reasonable?
Yes, it does. I was just thinking we've just had a number of things presented to us, and to remember all the questions till the very end my mind is already running out of space.
Fair point. I think there's maybe it'd be reasonable to ask MD if they've got any points they want to raise just now from what they've heard.
I have 2 points.
Yep.
They obviously relate to my neck of the woods. When you talk about health inequalities being poverty related, I think some of the inequalities that are felt within the Northern Corridor area is just the lack of access to primary GP healthcare. Is that being picked upon within the group?
No, we didn't have the chance talk about this issues with the group because we didn't have any community members attending. And we would like to the subgroup be driven by the community members, how they would like to work on that priority. And I'm hoping for the next one, for the next meeting, we will get some community members and we can move forward with work on that priority.
Okay. And back to the gentleman from Van El, is there somebody from Van El going to present tonight on the Community Concordat?
Yes, Brandon, will be myself again, if that's okay.
Okay, I take it that must be later on then.
I think so.
Right. Okay, thank you. Anyone else with any comments so far? Isabel Kelly. You're on mute, Isabel. We can't hear you. No, you're still on mute, Isabel. Isabel, we cannot hear you. Is it just me that can't hear Isabel, or?
Can anyone hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, sorry about that. Gabby, sorry, I think I missed the equalities LOIP, so I'll make sure that I'm there. But all I will say is, in a broader sense, and I do take on board what you're saying about poverty, but the GP access is something that would have to be addressed. The GP is the medical expert by which people gain access to all the services, and without the proper referrals to some of the services or for referrals to the appropriate consultant, then that affects the health of the person. So delays in seeing GPs, delays in access to GPs right now for the Northern Corridor is of major concern when we get members of the GTRA saying that they've been on the phone and have called 102 times to their GP and unsuccessfully been able to see somebody. And this is not on one occasion, it's on several occasions. But if you don't get access to your GP, you do not properly access the rest of the services that are available to you within the NHS, whether you're poor or whether you're quite wealthy. if you can't get to actually see a GP and get that referral done. There is some services that are self-referral, but if you are acutely ill, or if you do have something that is specific and you need referral from a GP, the delay that that's causing is really affecting people's health.
Thank you, Isabel. We can discuss that further on the subgroup meeting. Okay, is it okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Carol, do you wish to raise a question?
Hello. Sorry, I've only just been able to get in to this.
Okay.
What section are you at? Sorry.
We're just discussing that we've had a few presentations to do with the LOIPs. So
Right, I've missed all of that.
yeah. Okay. Peter, who was next up to do one of the LOIPs?
Christine McNally from Glenboy Development Trust around the community transport initial meeting.
Hi everybody, we had one initial meeting and I believe we had 3 people attend on that. Most of the conversation came around accessing of services and the lack of commercial transport, public transport around. Commuter transport, it was stated that it wasn't useful because people couldn't use their concession cards on it. And I double checked with the thematic lead for community transport in the Community Solutions Programme, and it was discovered there was a big research done about community transport engaging with the concession programme, and it became too costly for administration for community groups to take that on board. We did refer back that we maybe need to link in with SPT to have our voice heard on SPT transport, and they look at local provisions and obviously do site tests on whether routes are viable, and I think that's the main problem in any rural area, is that routes may not be viable or not profitable. So until we we're working with SPT and private contractors, and that's the problem there within getting services for buses within the rural areas. It's not something that can't happen, but I think it's about representing ourselves on SPT and making that happen. I'm already having a meeting with Paul Bridges on the 29th to see if there's any other way that our voices could be heard at the SPT table. So I'll be able to bring that back to you at the next meeting. The other thing that was discussed was Co Wheels, which is a car rental car club, and we've got one sitting at the Fort in Easterhouse and another one in Bondine Street Housing Association. And there was talk about getting them represented. It might be that we can invite them to have a base within a few areas of Moodiesburn. But again, it's a commercial organisation with a joining fee, a joining fee of £25 per year. It comes down. The older you get, it comes down. So if you're lucky to be 19 to 25, it only costs you £25. If you're lucky to be older than 26, it costs you £5 per month, with mileage at 5p a mile. But there's insurance excesses of 600, and they're looking for an annual payment of £60 towards insurance. So it's not free, it's not cheap, but that facility is there, and maybe we should get the company to come to the board and maybe promote the services there. It's another way of getting transport via car if you do need to go to the doctors, but it's getting to these points to pick up the vehicle. If you can't get to your local doctors, the chances are you won't get to the Fort to pick up a car. I don't know what the bus services are like. So that would be another barrier to that, if we were trying to do away with barriers to get people access to these facilities. But it's worth discussing with the company to see if they be interested in having cars provided at other sites within the locality. We spoke about the concessions to it. I'm trying to think what else was discussed. just the fact that it is an issue for older people, and we'll do what we can. Case is with Cases Community Transport as well, and they were you are part, Wilma, of the thematic group around community solutions programmes, so it might be worthwhile to invite Case down into that meeting as well. Are you up for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, I'd reached out to Annette to say was up for supporting whatever we can do around community transport. It's interesting what you're saying about Go Wheels. I live in Glasgow, and the excess for here was going to be £750.
Right.
So you know, what was running through my head is, you know, the slightest bash in the city, or the slightest bash on a bollard in the supermarket, or, you know, the tight squeeze in some of the areas in North Lanarkshire. It wouldn't take much for people to be accruing quite a lot, you know, potentially. So it might be suitable for some people, but I must admit, looking at it from my own personal circumstances, I was thinking, nah, I'm not quite sure if the excess is too hefty.
Yes, there might be other ways around it, but that's what's sitting on their website. I haven't spoken to the company yet. I'm intending to get in touch with them. It may well be that it's a facility there for some people, as you said, but the majority of people, particularly older people, are looking for services that they can use their concession on. Young people as well nowadays, they have their concession cards, so it's obviously a barrier for young people getting to activities if they don't have a bus service to get it there. Whether community transport and community solutions programme can look at things again in partnership with SPT to manage the concession services. There's a lot of administration to it. We don't get the money back right away. You know, you have to bout the money and then you have to claim that back months later. And organisations like community groups don't have the facility or the funds to be able to support that. So again, if we were going down that line to discuss that, it would be something we would be needing to bring in NHS with and the council to look if there a way of underwriting the expenses and the liability that's on the third sector organisations to manage this.
The other thing around supporting, say, older people to hospitals, etc., we also have to consider things like infection control and what level of support may be required. So, you know, is it the walking wounded, for want of a better word, or is it somebody that actually might need, you know, a driver plus somebody there with them, keeping them calm and talking through
there is the hospital transport scheme that's run through Getting Better Together. They cover the whole of Lanarkshire with that, I believe. And that's free at the points for people over 65 to get to their hospitals, and the driver stays with them. So that is available there. For other agencies like yourself and GDT getting into it, there's cost implications for us. We don't have that. We don't participate in that project. We don't get funded to deliver that project. So that's a disadvantage. And I've been asked a number of times if we can take people, because Paul can't take people, but we don't have that funding to allow that. And Wilma, you'll be the same in Case.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't have it.
Yeah, and nor the infrastructure, like the risk assessments, the training.
Well, we can do that. That's something that we should be able to do, that Paul's able to train up. He is a trainer on all these things. And between us, we should be able to do that. So I don't see that as being a barrier. What I see as a barrier is the financial structure to it and the implications and liabilities for ourselves as an organisation. Paul's running it with volunteer drivers, but there's still, if they're using if they're using their transport or their own, we still have to pay their costs, the volunteer costs, and we don't have that budget. So that's an element there that we might need to consider. So we'll get Paul down. I'm having a meeting with him on the 29th, Wilma. If you would like to come down, it's a good way of meeting one another as well, because we haven't met.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Right.
Let me check my diary and come back
I'll
to
come
you.
back to you on that one as
Is
well.
that 29th of August?
29th of August, Monday, 11 o'clock. Sorry about this, we're arranging our diary, sorry. And that'll maybe help some way to find out what the gaps are and how we can actually fill them as a group and see where that takes us. But there are gaps there that exist within every rural area. And it's something that's faced up in Shotts, it's something that's faced in Cumbernauld, it's something that's faced in Glenboig. It's about bringing those assets together and seeing if there's something we can work to. But there would be implications for each organisation on financial liabilities on it. So it's something to be considered, and that is something that the subgroup is actually looking at. And as I say, we'll look at Paul to see if he sits on the SPT, so he should be able to give our voice there. And if not, then we should be able to give our voice to SPT as well. So maybe that's something to look at a later date. But we are digging away to see what else we can do. We can draw up.
Thank you, Christine. There's a couple of people with hands up.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can bring them in. Councillor Kelty.
Hi, it was just to say I'm actually a representative on SPT's board as
Brilliant.
well, so I'm happy to take forward anything that you have. We've actually got a meeting on Friday, so happy to share my email address in the chat bar, and any issues, just send them along and I can take them along on Friday with me.
Thank you, Councillor. If I give you a wee rundown again as an email.
Yeah, that would be great. It's just I don't have the best memory most of the time, so if it's written down, it's there. They are the Chief Executive SPT, I have to say, is very approachable. And she's very good. Obviously she's been dealing with a lot the last few days with the school transport issues. And she's been very willing to keep us up to date. So hopefully we can take forward any issues that you've got as well.
Fantastic, thank you.
All right, no problem.
Carol Henderson.
Thank you, Brandon. I was just see, when are we not talking about two different things here when you're talking about likes of community transport? What I had thought the lights were involving was likes of people, irrespective of what age they were, being able to get between the villages, which, you know, for certain villages they can't at the moment. But then for people who maybe need to go to hospitals and things like that, you've got hospital transport that you can get, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that was community transport for that. I would say that that perhaps one of the things that needs to be set up is like a voluntary drivers, you know, try and get that up and running as opposed to community transport, because a voluntary driver service can take people to a multitude of different things, whether it's to the shops, to a dental appointment, to a hairdresser's or whatever. Whereas community transport wouldn't normally.
Carol, can I just stop you there a wee minute? We already have volunteer driver scheme working with Paul Bridges and Shotts, delivering a hospital support service to go to any health appointments in any hospital. It could be up in Edinburgh, it could be down in Newcastle, it could be a number of places, and that's supported that they allow a carer with them. So, which doesn't happen with hospital transport. You're not allowed a carer all the time. So we have that facility there.
I've never heard of it.
That does exist. It's been in existence for a number of years, but there is ways we can improve that, and that's what Wilma and myself are looking at, how we can improve things for the Northern Corridor. The thing about community transport offers a cheaper alternative to, and a lot of times it offers a cheaper alternative to hiring private transport to get clubs round about. We'll even take one or two people round about if they need to get to certain clubs or certain activities. It comes under a Section 19. A Section 19 means we cannot make a profit with it. We have to break even. We're not allowed to make a profit. Section 22 is around charging the passenger for a fare at the point of service. We cannot run a point of service concession travel because that would be payment at the point of service. And that we'd be breaking the law because we're not operating under Section 22 licence. So that's the problem why we cannot use the concessions. If we want to use the concessions and we get that backup and support, we would need to change a licence and go into a Section 22 licence. So there's a number of different things there. We have a volunteer driver scheme there. We have a number when you think about it. Because
can I ask
cancer.
Right, but can I ask the volunteer drivers, how many have they done in the Northern Corridor?
I couldn't tell you that. We'll find out on Monday.
What I'm saying is that I've never heard of them.
They do exist, and
I know they may exist. I'm not saying they don't exist. They may exist exactly the same as the consortium exists, but that's a different matter, right? Wait a minute. Look, I know a lot about transport. Okay, I have worked with SPT for many, many years. I have also worked with voluntary driver sectors. I was supposed to be at the last LOIP meeting for the community transport. Community transport is one that I will be joining. I missed the last meeting, but at the same time, there just because of admin costs and things like this, we need to look at things. We need to look at it. It's not a case of, you know, Glenboig are doing this or Case is doing that and you don't have the facilities. We might be talking about starting up a completely different group here.
I haven't said no to this, Carol. I have said that's what we're looking at. We're asking people, we're asking the councillors going to speak. I'm going to speak to Paul Bridges to take things forward. I'm not sitting here saying it's not happening. There was a first meeting that was happening. We will take things forward, but we have to take things forward at the right pace. Now, and get information. You're saying you haven't heard of the services that are sitting there. Well, that's a task for community transport to put out there. That's a failing, and that's something we need to address. I'm not saying these things won't happen, but it's things that we will address as we move forward. Okay?
Right. But what I'm saying is that there's no reason why the community transport that were initially raised was the transportation between villages and us getting about. I mean, now we don't even have, some of us don't even have bus services between villages.
That's correct.
You can't get from my village to my doctor or the health clinic. But, you know, we're talking about that. We're not just talking about...
No, we're not just talking about community transport. Like no, we're not just talking about that, which is why we're asking Councillor Kelty to take things to SPT, because we as a community cannot put on private buses, to put on a private service without speaking to SPT. Now, if that means we're asking SPT to do surveys to find out, is there a profitable need at the moment for services, because they will only put on a service if it's profitable. And that's the issue we've got in the rural areas. Now,
that's not my experience in the past, and they do on a regular basis pay for services to be run in rural areas that are not profitable.
That's
because
fine.
I have driven buses that all we do is pollinate the countryside.
Can I say that this discussion would be the good discussion to hold at the actual LOIP.
Thank you, Brandon. Yes, I fully agree with you.
Obviously, you can sense the strength of feeling about the lack of transport within the communities based in the Northern Corridor.
And it's been tackled. It's been tackled. We've had one meeting and it has been tackled.
Let me move on. There's a couple of other people who want to make some points. Alice Morton. Alice, you've got your hand up.
Yes, Brandon, it was to interrupt the conversation that was taking place. My opinion is there is too much information being given and it became a two-way dialogue there. Please, can we move on to get the business covered, please?
All right. Thank you, Alice. Isabel?
I'm afraid, Brandon, my comment was going to be exactly the same.
Okay.
But no,
Thank you, Isabel.
we're not having
Thank
a
you.
light discussion at the board.
In the meeting.
Get
Yes.
with an update. So
Yeah.
if you could
Okay.
chair and move us on, that would be
Right.
lovely.
Peter, what's the next point on the LOIPs?
Thanks, Brandon. I think if we could have Police Scotland and an update from Scottish Fire and Rescue, and then perhaps bring Camille back in from Vanel to do his partner update, and maybe the Community Concordat at that point as well, if that sounds reasonable.
Yes, that is. Who have we got from Police Scotland with us?
Good evening, it's myself, Michael McCusker. I'm the Community Inspector for Cumbernauld Northern Corridor. I've also got Sergeant Greg McHale. I'm currently covering for Susan Ray, who's off for a number of months. She's left me some notes to go through with you with regards to the updates. So for any questions, leave them to the end and I'll answer anything that you have. The first note on the agenda is the Fearless campaign. We've secured funding for the Fearless campaign, and that's to publicise social media campaign. Fearless are an arm of Crime Stoppers who are independently assessing a charity to provide anonymous reporting platform for the public to report criminality. The Fearless campaign will be tailored to local issues, including antisocial behaviour, underage drinking, and will be circulated on Snapchat platforms targeting Kilsyth, Cumbernauld and the Northern Corridor postcodes. As part of the campaign, signposting to support services, podcasts, and that will highlight the dangers of being involved in violence and disorder. Any questions about that? Before we move on? Oh, perfect.
Got off scot-free, Michael. Keep going.
Happy days. The next one is just to talk about community engagement that we've had since our last meeting. My community officers have continually engaged with the local community throughout the reporting period and have undertaken a number of action plans to target incidents of disorder within the Northern Corridor areas. These have included high visibility and plain clothes patrols, increased development of intelligence around drug supply, violence and disorder. They also took part in a bottle marking scheme. These included engagement with local licensed premises, marking bottles with UV pens, and thereafter dedicated patrols are put into areas over the weekend periods. And if alcohol was confiscated or discarded by youths, UV light was then shown in order to identify the postcode at which the bottle came from. So that was pretty good from an intelligence point of view, and that was then fed back into licensing and trading standards. Acting on intelligence engagement from local Lanarkshire divisions of licensing, local retailers were contacted with regards to compliance and age restriction sales from that going forward. We've also had dedicated action plans to target youth disorder in the Glen area of Moodiesburn, which included high visibility patrols along with plain clothes patrols, utilising the mounted branch also who we bid for, and they came to the area. So that was then put in social media, and from that it's seen large scale interaction with the public, which is all positive, which is, it can't be a bad thing having the horses in the area anyway. It's good for everyone to see, at least we're trying to tackle the area for the youth disorder. The next thing we'll talk about is a safeguarding event, which is a bogus crime initiative that was undertaken jointly by Police Scotland and Trading Standards to safeguard members of the public from bogus and rogue companies. So this was undertaken by our Divisional Alcohol Violence Reduction Unit, accompanied by the community policing. This initiative involved a 2-day event which included roadside stops and joint roving patrols undertaken with the Police and Trading Standards around the Northern Corridor and Cumbernauld areas. Engagement was undertaken with companies who were identified to be working in homes within the area to ensure homeowners had been provided with their rights as a consumer, and that the companies were legitimate and providing fair prices for agreed works undertaken. As a result of the initiative, 8 companies were found to be non-compliant with aspects of consumer protection legislation, and this was dealt with solely by Trading Standards. Guidance was then circulated on social media to educate and support members of the public to safeguard themselves from rogue traders. And if I'm honest, that's all we've been left with. So any questions, I can take that forward.
Do you have any more for us, Michael?
No, that's all.
Can I just raise a point? Is there any presentation being made to the boards with regards to the police plan?
There will be. That's been taken forward by our superintendents, but that will be at a later time other than tonight.
Right, okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you.
Who's here from the Fire and Rescue Service?
That's myself. Chris Burns, I'm the station commander for Steps Fire Station, covering the Northern Corridor. Supplied you with the activity over the last quarter, but just a kind of update from ourselves with regards to community engagement activities. Our Fire Reach relaunched by members of the Scottish Youth Parliament. It's been run through April, May and June and completed 13 courses. Our Youth Engagement Officer and Police Scotland have identified young people who have displayed interest in fire and were involved in fire-related antisocial behaviour and have deliberately set fires throughout Lanarkshire. We've also had a water safety initiative running in the last quarter. These events have been run alongside SAMH, Scottish Ambulance Service, the Police, Scottish Canals and Open Water Rescue. And we've delivered 50 presentations to schools with a combined audience of over 2,500 pupils. The local station has also been involved in the street soccer initiative that Gabriella was talking about earlier, and we tried to attend on every night that was being run, which was shown to have a kind of a good turnout. And that's pretty much it from us, unless anybody's got any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Your report has a lot of green on it, which is good. The only exception was the false fire alarms.
Yeah, so the false, unwanted fire alarms, that's isn't a problem for us just now, and we are looking to stop attending these. We put out a consultation a while back, and this will be put back to the occupiers for them to carry out the initial investigation and then contact ourselves. So that obviously will free up a lot of our time for other activities. The deliberate fire setting, you'll notice within Northern Corridor, with a significant drop within the area, obviously being involved in the things like the street soccer, and that's helping that, with our presence being out there.
Thank you, Chris. Has anybody else got any questions for the Fire and Rescue? No. Okay. I think, is it Van El that are coming back in to present with respect to the Community Concordat?
Hello again. I'll just give you a couple of words of background of Community Concordat, and then just really about the plans and events that will take place. North Lanarkshire Partnership pretty much was developing a Community Concordat agreement between North Lanarkshire stakeholders, and this Concordat involves consultation and agreement with which basically sets out shared values and approaches to empowering and investing in local communities, pretty much to support well-being, equality and sustainability. And these partners were residents, community and volunteer sector, members of community boards, public bodies serving North Lanarkshire, including North Lanarkshire Council, NHS, Lanarkshire Police and Fire and Rescue, also businesses serving in North Lanarkshire, so very wide. When it comes to update regarding stakeholder Community Concordat events, these workshops will have a variety of focus groups, and also they will take place in different localities, and they will be held in 9 community planning localities. They will involve all key stakeholders I've mentioned, and they aim to maximize contributions from equality groups and key communities of interest. And these communities are Black, Asian, and minority ethnic groups. Second is unpaid carers. There will be LGBTI plus groups, people with disabilities and long-term conditions, also older adults, and people from different faith communities, people on low income, and young people. And these events will run from early September until around early October. So we only have a very short time to promote these events. And I'm going to give you a link to a chat I've got here actually. Okay, right, that's fine. So you can click basically and get access to all those Eventbrite links, because if you click on each locality or focus group, you can actually it will take immediately to the Eventbrite for registration. So I'm going to ask you to share this link with your networks or anyone you think would be interested in this. And then pretty much the purpose of those events is to gather information on how to improve life in North Lanarkshire. So for those concerned about the challenges being faced in families and basically living community across North Lanarkshire, those who have ideas on what could be done to improve lives, or even like local democracy as well, and those who'd like to share their views on how residents and organizations from every sector, community and volunteer, and also public and business can work together and more efficiently to improve people's well-being. So it's very wide, actually, spectrum there. So again, to register for focus groups in your locality or even interest groups, what you do is go on the link and click to Eventbrite basically page. Community Concord, that's pretty much an agreement. It's a agreement how we work better together, and that's obviously we've done it before, but this time around we are doing this as events with workshops and to improve collaboration and lives in the communities. So I'm going to ask you again to share this information, this link, and register for in-person focus groups. They'll be held in the 9 localities. There was quite a lot to basically discuss and consider when it comes to actually COVID. We've done everything to reduce this risk, and all the assessments were done, and the meetings will only take place in facilities that will, and they have already provided us with basically health and safety, all the actual requirements, you know, all the plans we need to actually make this safe for the community. We have our separate form for this. Many events, many actual venues did not, unfortunately, provide information, so we had to actually stick to this, actually what is safe. And what else I can add? Localities, obviously, Edgehill, Bessel, Coldbridge, Cumbernauld, Northern Corridor, Kilsyth, Motherwell, Shotts, Wishaw, and focus groups. I have mentioned all those mentioned, like Black, Asian, and minority ethnic groups, LGBTIQ, older adults, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to give you also an email if you'd like to get more information or support when it comes to Community Concordat. There is actually a separate email. So if you require assistance, I'll just copy that and copy this chat. And that should work for us. I'm not leading the project. I'm here to provide an update. It's more to it. If you want any details, just drop us an email and we'll get back to you. That's all from me. Do you have any questions?
Well, I have a few points.
Okay.
The first one, this Community Concordat. How was a need for this identified?
Yes. So the need for it, I think it's like a work of all partners. This has been actually identified. I can't tell you about the beginning of it because I wasn't involved. This is not my project, but I'm sure if you speak to one of our staff who is leading it, I believe is.
Well, maybe if you take that back as a question to be responded
I can, yes, and ask.
I would also ask, how does this Concordat fit with the document called Community Matters, One Plan, Many Voices, a Framework for Engagement, a document that's been issued by North Lanarkshire and published on the Community Board website?
Very good question again, Brandon. I'm going to have to take it back and get back to you via email. So please do expect communication from me soon.
Well, it should be reported back to the board. And finally, from my own area, I believe a request was made relating to the focus group meeting for the Northern Corridor taking place during, shall we say, normal working hours, when, shall we say, normal people are at work and can't attend. And when the question was asked, would a meeting be arranged out with normal working hours, so normal people could attend, the answer was there wasn't the availability to be able to do so.
Okay, I'm not sure how to answer this question. I'm flexible. I attend this actually at this time. I can attend actually and provide information anytime. We work flexibly, so I'm not really sure. I have noticed actually I have disappeared from the screen. That's because of the sun that is behind me.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to actually do something with it, but I can't. Oh, I'm just, I'll have to actually block the sun first. Sorry about that.
But the point being raised is you're holding focus groups, but they're not accessible to the normal people, should we say?
Well, last focus groups. You mean the Concordat focus groups? Yeah. Well, I wasn't the one who was actually deciding about the timing, and I wasn't the one who was organizing it. I can take it back to organizers and get back to the board basically with the reply. I'm not sure what to really. I don't have access to this information pretty much at the moment. Why and how this was decided.
It's all about community engagement. The community
I
can only engage if they're given the ability to do so.
Yes, yes. I would have to investigate this further.
Isabel, you wish to raise a point.
Yeah, it's just talking about community engagement. Camille, and I don't want to shoot the messenger, you're here only giving us an update, but this idea was conceived and put forward to the board, and probably the same way the community. I cannot think of a more appropriate way to waste money than this Concordat. I don't think that there's any need for it. I think the funding is absolutely ridiculous with what is going on with the cost of living, what is going on with children needing fed, whatever. We've got a community board where we regularly bring up issues and we're not heard and there is no action taken. We pontificate about what our issues are, and unless we go away and do it ourselves, nothing is done. To me, this is just another arena for the politicians to tick the box and say, oh, we've consulted, we've asked opinions, this is what we think is needed. And in actual fact, as Brandon said, we can't even attend them sometimes because they're not even accessible. People didn't decide, and I mean communities didn't decide that there was going to be a Concordat. The partners decided. And I would just like to say, I don't think there's any need for it. I can't honestly see that amount of money should be wasted when what is going on in the country and the poverty that's there, and we're using money in that way. That's all I've got to say about it.
Alice Morton.
I would have to support Isabel's comments on this community concordat and also Brandon's questions on this community concordat. And this is yet another piece of work which, for those who are unaware, is costing £60,000. And I'm sure all of us sitting here tonight could have other projects where this money could be spent. As I say, it's another piece of work. We already have a community board, and the community board is here to work to improve the lives of the communities across the Northern Corridor. The community board was not consulted on the purpose or the rationale for a community concordat. No rationale for this has been set out. No consultation took place with community councils, with tenants and residents associations, with boards, etc., etc. So this decision was not taken in partnership or engagement with community organisations. The Northern Corridor Community Forum was not consulted on the reasoning behind the development of a community concordat. And in my opinion, this has been a serious omission of consultation. So it is a duplication of work, unless there are reasons given to support the necessity of it. And we have a community board. It is being underpinned by LOIP subgroups, which the intention is to improve the lives of people across the Northern Corridor. So I fully support the questions that Brandon has asked, and this board deserves detailed answers as to how this piece of work transpired. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you. Matt Costello.
Thanks, Chair. Just very briefly, just to pick up on the comments raised regarding community engagement. We certainly share any concerns in relation to people who feel they're being excluded, they're not having the opportunity to attend and to give feedback in relation to this. We will link in with our colleagues in Van Ellen across the partnership to try and ensure that that is addressed, and that people are given a real opportunity to raise the points that have been raised tonight further. But in that, we'll take it as an action from the board in conjunction with colleagues in Van Ellen, etc., to ensure that answers are given in relation to the questions and points that have been raised tonight, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Alice, quickly.
Quickly, Matt, it's not a feeling that we're being excluded. It's the reality of the situation. We were not, I'll maybe rephrase that, the forum, community boards, the community councils, we were not consulted as to the rationale and the need for a community concordat. So it is not a feeling, it is reality.
Thank you, Alice. I think that concludes the section on reports back from the LOIPs. Is there anything else, Peter?
Excuse me, Brandon. Can I come in for a second?
Yes, Camille.
I've noted everything you have asked, and I will pursue this to provide you feedback on these questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to proceed, Brandon. I think that's us. Thanks.
Thank you. We move on to community matters, input from local community groups. We have a number of points that were raised. Mollinsburn Tenants and Residents Association, I take it, Carol, do you wish to say something about this? Public transport issues, public halls, and consortium?
Yes, Brandon. The public transport issues I've raised before and I've spoke about earlier on. We can't get from Mollinsburn anymore to our doctor's surgery that a lot of people here use. We also can't get to the local health clinic, and that includes the new clinic that would be currently getting built as well. So the only way of getting there now is by either driving or taxi or something like that, which obviously isn't convenient to people. The public halls, I think it's about time that the majority of the public halls were all opened when requested. I have spoken to, after putting this in, I did speak to the community lets team about us getting the hall booking in Auchinloch, and I was told that it would be okay. But we've had issues already with community groups not being able to access their local, local halls and community facilities. And, for whatever reason the council have, I don't think that it's acceptable for small communities to, sometimes it's perhaps one of the very few facilities that they do have from councils that they can't access it. So I know we've had the issues with COVID and everything else, but you know, COVID is still around, but we do still also need to move on, and these facilities do need to be opened up in the smaller communities as well as the larger ones. And lastly, the consortium. I had gone to a meeting with the consortium after a meeting of the forum, where I had discovered that the consortium were having a meeting the next day, and I went along. I did say that we have always been members. The forum have always been a member, but I was told that they would need to look into it, etc. I was backed up by somebody else that was there that agreed the forum had always been members of the consortium, but I have never received an invite to any other meeting, which I know that there has been other meetings. I've never had any communication. The forum's never had any communication. The only communication that we have received is through Peter McNally forwarding on items that he has received. So I'd like to find out why the forum are being excluded from the local consortium that we are actually members of. That's all.
I don't know. Is anybody able to respond to any that point?
It's Case that are the lead on it.
Okay, so with some of Peter's help, perhaps, I will try and answer that as best I can for you, Carol. Bearing in mind, Carol, that I'm just coming up for 4 months old in the organisation, so I'm still very much finding my feet. You were at a meeting. I remember I was at, I think it was my first consortium meeting, you were at it, and there was some discussion about the consortium needing to dust itself down and look again at exactly who were all the members and how much representation we had from each area. And it was agreed there was going to be a development day, and I believe, like Gabby, you were at the development day. Peter was at the development day. Gabby, you're shaking your head. You must have been off, were you? Anyway, we dusted ourselves down and we looked again at who exactly were on the membership. And actually, Carol, you haven't got a membership, but you can become a member. And Peter's got the paperwork, and I could get Susan to send you on the paperwork to make sure you are.
The forum have always been members.
So my understanding is that, is it yourself, Alice, that's on representing the sort of steps area? Sorry, Peter, I see you've got your hand up.
Just briefly, Carol had raised the point, and I think what's happened, Carol, discovered that there was a new membership system set up in place before Wilma came in to post, and for some reason, the forum was missed out from that. As Wilma said, there is a new membership forum. Susan sent me on the form to send to you guys. If the forum's still interested in being members, I can forward that on tonight and get that form over as soon as possible.
Right.
I also think it was way before Susan's time that the system changed, and I don't know if it was during COVID, Carol, or whatever happened, but we believe we're back on track. We believe we've got the systems there for you. We'd be delighted if you took the paperwork, filled it in, and we can get going and get going really strongly again.
Okay, thank you.
And anybody able to respond to Carol's points about access to community halls and community facilities? I, as a representative from Auchinlock, have experienced lack of ability to be able to access our own community facility. Is anybody got any response to that?
Brandon, if you don't mind, I can maybe give a wee update to that. Myself and Peter have obviously identified from conversations with yourselves within the Northern Corridor that is a major issue, and we're looking to have some discussions with facilities managers to look at what the issues are for local people and to see if there's any way that we can look at making a difference in terms of that. So we will certainly set that up and we'll be able to feed back any further update on that. Thanks, Brandon.
Isabel Kelly, you have your hand up. I think, are you on mute or? Okay, hopefully Isabel will come through to us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, yes.
I don't know what the problem is tonight. Peter, just to say, if you and your colleague, if you get feedback, we had an occasion to try and book the hall at the weekend in Gapcosh, and we finally got it after we spoke to our councillor. Greg Lennon went on and we got the let for, it was for the Jubilee celebrations, but in the correspondence, the manager who takes to deal with it said that there was a major review done in 2018. They looked at previous lets and where there were what they considered insufficient lets with the staffing they were applying for community halls. They designated certain halls were not to be opened or not to be opened at the weekend. Now, the hall in Gapcosh is the only building, apart from the school, that the council have anything to do with or own or asset or anything else. And that is mainly taken over by a company who provides out school care Monday to Friday. There is some individual lets. I think there's a youth club on a Friday night. Now, if we're putting on community events, we specifically put them on at the weekend so people can attend. So, you know, and we do it round the square, and if we can get the hall, especially for toilet facilities. I mean, when we had the occasion for the Jubilee, it was out in the garden that we've upgraded in partnership with North Lanarkshire and a participation request. So we had marquees, etc. out there, and all we needed really was the toilet facilities, and we had a rain shower, and we went into the hall for a small period of time. But, you know, we've only got 5 or 6 events during the year, and we've been told point blank, we're opening it today, but don't come back and ask again because it's not been opened. We have our staffing levels and we don't have people to provide service at the weekend for that particular hall. And I think Auchinlock is the same. They looked at the frequency of the lets, and through budget they decided which facilities. They told us we could have our Jubilee celebration in Moodiesburn. We could have it in the Pivot, or we could have it in the Cultural Centre until Greg Lennon stepped in. So
thank you, Isabel. Yes, I'm afraid the reduction in access to the hall seems to have been a decision made by someone out with the community, and unfortunately, COVID intervened and has provided them with something to hide behind, and not actually, come back with giving us provision to our facilities once again. ASN 365, Colin, I believe you put this one in.
There was 2 bits of it, Brandon, thanks for getting it added. First of all, what it's about is, so over the summer, there was ASN a 365 club, and the spaces were gone in a matter of days. Compare it to the ASN 365 mainstream in Christen, was basically a drop-in service. So there's a massive gulf in between mainstream and ASN. I don't know if this year, if it was just it's the first time I've ever heard of it, and I don't know if the council or NLC are going to look at expanding it more next year. I just find it kind of a bit of a kind of slap in the face to kind of, I've got 2 children, one has got ASN issues, one's mainstream. The 2 kids can't go to the same class because the NLC, whoever's supporting it won't support the ASN children at a mainstream ASN group. I don't know if anybody can answer that.
Peter McNally's put his hand up.
Thanks, Brandon. Colin, I've forwarded your email on to the appropriate officer within education. I'm waiting for a response. As soon as I get a response back, I'm going to ask the person if it's suitable for you to organise a meeting to follow up any email response, and I'll come back to you as soon as that comes through.
Okay, no, that's brilliant, because there's a number of parents why it kind of catapulted. It was another NLC post, and it got a lot of ESN parents really annoyed about the whole thing, as if it had done a major thing. It's a good start, but it needs to be improved dramatically.
Thank you. Is there any other points, Colin?
Yeah, there was another thing, also on the same subject of ASN clubs. There seems to be active North Lanarkshire, or what you want to call, don't seem to put on many kind of a sports events kind of thing. Anything they do doesn't seem to be promoted. I say hardly anything active. There seems to be a lack of ASN coaches, and that's maybe a reason why they can't accommodate this kind of thing, which is a bit of a shame, given that we've had the Commonwealth Games, we've had the Birmingham, we've had the kind of main event, and with the Paralympics together. I think this is something that council should be looking at, kind of doing for the NLC stuff. Should be doing. Sorry, I've got an electrician at the same time here, so I'm trying to juggle. It's been a bit of a nightmare this tonight since I walked in. See you later. Thanks, pal. He's just out the door. What happens is I've been involved with a kind of group called Promoting Inclusion Through Sport, and they've had a lot of issues with the council about Broadwoods and getting the local Broadwood people have been brilliant. It's the management of NLC that don't seem to want to communicate or help or in any way. So there seems to be a massive barrier between ESN and normal classes. I just find that there needs to be better engagement, more engagement for the ESN people. And also the next bit is like something that Kamal kind of was is probably I'm going to look at that voluntary action group. And again, some of the stuff, Peter, that you send on a weekly, daily basis, I've been pushing this stuff to this group to try and get involved with you. There's a lot of good stuff that you're sending. A lot of this group are looking at private companies to fund them. The council, to be fair, the council have given them half the fees, which is good, but it needs to improve. The NLC seem to be running things more as a business now, but ESN need a wee bit more help and a wee bit more slack, because at the end of the day, these groups are doing it themselves and they're getting the people in because they're promoting it.
Thank you, Colin. This is all about inclusion, and we're talking about having everybody involved, not separating people off, as appears to be the case. Carol Henderson.
Thank you, Brandon. I totally agree with Colin. I've experienced the same issues with my son who has disabilities, and we went to an event that was, and it was an active NL, well, it was when it was NLL, but it's effectively the same people anyway, but the bikeability program that they do, they wouldn't allow my son to go to it in a hall because he was 8 years old, and it only went up to, I think it was 7. And, despite the fact that I said, well, if it's for, the bike purpose or, whatever, he was small for his height, so he wouldn't stand out. I said I can give him his own bike to bring along, whatever there was no justification for excluding him. But they insisted that he could not go to do the bike ability to be able to balance. It was balanceability, in fact, it was to be able to balance on the bike. And in the end, we were actually informed by Glasgow City Council about a charity group at Glasgow Green who specifically work with children with disabilities, and 3 sessions there, and my son was cycling by himself on 2 wheels. And to think back at the attitude that the staff had, you know, if they had just taken that little bit of time and effort, he probably would have been cycling in the hall around all the rest of the children. But because he had a disability, they were not interested at all. And it is exactly the same. Everything that they seem to do is, you know, kind of around football and things like that. My son, despite being a boy and they think that boys should be playing football, my son could not play football to save himself. He does not have the coordination. And, you know, when it comes to being able to do anything that they put on, you can't, you're excluded. Even in school, when it came to days, the boys would go outside to play football, that was their task, and the girls would go to the gym. And my son ended up getting slightly bullied in the fact that because he could not go and play football, he physically was not capable of doing it, he would go to the gym and work in the gym instead, and he would get slagged by the other boys because he was going to the gym with all the girls. So it's through education and, you know, sport as well, but it's also in this within the teaching, you know, the teachers' attitude towards sport in the schools as well. And I fully agree with Colin that, you know, things do need to change.
Isabel, you have your hand up.
Just to say, this is maybe an item we could add to the equalities and inclusion LOIP.
Yes.
Is that direct?
Yes.
Yes, I would just add something. I just wanted to raise that it is a perfect topic to include in our subgroup for health inequalities.
Yeah.
If I can invite Colin and Carol to for the discussion.
Yeah, I'm more than happy because, as I say, they need a wee bit more kind of thing. I think COVID, the last 2 years with COVID has been bad enough. Never mind, still been this kind of them and us. I don't want my kid to go to mainstream and she's left in a corner. My kid did go to mainstream class and she could see the difference in her, and she suffered it. And I had enough. I had to pull her out because it was just getting bad.
Yeah, I think that when I sent you the date for the next meeting, it will be after the 19th of September. I would like to have the discussion with you on the subgroup.
It might be somebody I can bring in and from the promoting exclusion through sport, Alan Crawford or whatever. It all depends the time, and again the times and the dates and stuff like that. She is really wanting to kind of push her group, and as I say, she's looking at private companies to fund it. She doesn't want the parents to pay for this, which is unprepared to pay for it. And it's good that Christine McNally's kind of posted about Glen Boyd. Never heard of that. There used to be a guy called Pat, who used to run a club in the school, St Barbara School, and he's now stopped that. This is an old guy, 80-year-old, that's running clubs for ASN because nobody else does it. It's ridiculous.
Okay, thank you. The next topic was a request through the Northern Corridor Community Forum, and it was representation to be made by the through local democracy conveners from the People and Communities in Education and Children and Families Committees. I don't know, Alice, do you wish to say anything on this? Obviously, these presentations weren't able to be made at this meeting.
Thank you, Brandon. I'll say a few words on the rationale behind this request. It surrounds local democracy. It is about empowering local communities with greater control and greater influence. We are very well aware of the deficit, the existing deficit of this control and influence for our communities and our community organisations. And it was about how North Lanarkshire Council will further empower local communities and ensure that decisions are taken as close as possible to those that they affect most. And the request was that the conveners of committees, the People and Communities Committee, will illustrate how this will be carried out, how local communities across the Northern Corridor will have an equal share of power, control and influence in the decisions which affect them, because we are of the opinion that there is again an absence of this, and the developmental processes and mechanisms to be employed, and the tangible benefits for the Northern Corridor communities. And the same request would be asked of the convener of the Education, Children and Families Committee. Again, how local communities across the Northern Corridor will have an equal share of power, control and influence in the decisions which affect them. I am sure that if I asked round the table this evening, you could give me examples where we have not had an equal share of power, we have not had an equal share of control, and we have been unable to influence decisions which affect us on many, many different occasions. Again, the developmental processes and mechanisms to be employed to achieve these shared decisions. There is an absence of mechanisms and processes. In fact, there are barriers, there are obstacles, there are obstructions constantly when we ask for information. And at the opening of this meeting, Brandon asked for comments regarding the minute of the previous meeting, where in good faith, the Northern Corridor Community Forum had requested the delivery of presentations from council officers, and these have been, in brackets, respectively declined. That's not good enough. Where a community asks for information, there should be transparency and accountability. So again, and to close again, the tangible benefits for the Northern Corridor communities. So I appreciate that the administration has changed since the original request was submitted, but I would suggest and advise that we ask the new conveners of these two committees to give presentations regarding the items as listed this evening. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Alice. Hopefully that gives the team from the Community Partnership the reasoning behind this, because we still feel that our requests to various council officials have not been met. Overflowing bins from Glen Boig. Who's here from Glen Boig for this one?
That would maybe be me. I can just give you a wee overview of what's coming through to me in the community centre. People have been complaining about the larger bins that have been placed round about the loch. Aren't being emptied often enough. They're maybe in the wrong places, and there's been a constant complaint about the stuff lying around in the streets because they're not getting emptied often enough, that rubbish is overflowing. It's lying in the streets and getting blown around. So that's as far as I'm aware of the issues around the bins not being emptied often enough, despite them being put in larger bins. For instance, round at the loch, there's now only one bin, and that's at the entrance. There's not a number of bins round the loch, and that seems to be causing a problem. So I think it's about getting them emptied a wee bit more often.
Andrew Mcpherson, I think you put your hand up to answer.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Christine. The new bins were put in obviously to remove all the smaller bins. The reason for that is that they won't be located round the loch, because the new bins will be lifted and emptied by the actual waste disposal vehicles. It used to be previously, it used to have, it was very labour intensive, emptying all the smaller bins. So we've rationalised the total number of litter bins, but increased the capacity across the north area, and it's now been rolled out across the remainder of the council. I know over the last couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, there was a sort of resetting of the emptying schedule of it. What we're doing there is sort of stress testing the bins. We now know from the feedback that we've received, those areas that require additional bins, perhaps rather than the more frequent emptying of one bin, we could put in an additional bin. The purpose behind that will then allow us to empty the bins at the same time, as opposed to sending a crew out to empty one bin 1 week and then another bin the next week, and that just makes it a much more efficient process. There will be occasions where we will increase the frequency, for example, in town centre areas where there will be a need to empty those bins more frequently. But what I could ask, Christine, if there is any issues with any of the bins that you're talking about, please just let us know about it. The more information that we have, then that leads, the more intelligence we have will lead us to, increasing the frequency, putting in additional bins, or indeed resiting the bins to a more suitable location.
Thank you very much. I'll pass that on to individuals concerned. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
Isabel Kelly, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just to say, Cathy McGinty's on here as well. And Andrew, every week without fail, every single week, apart from what we pick up, we did state when we went into partnership with the village square in terms of upgrading that area, that we would require more bins, simply because it's a nice place to sit now. And we're across the road from a Chinese takeaway, a hairdresser's, 2 or 3 shops. I appreciate the good weather. The bins were more full because people were eating out and sitting in grassed areas and loch sides, etc. So the other bins were more full. But hopefully, if you're analysing the information, the square at Gartcosh definitely needs additional litter bins, because the bin that accompanies the haul, what we do is we pick up 2 and 3 bags a week and deposit that at the hall's bigger bin, apart from the bin overflowing. That's how bad it is. We have to go up and water the plants on a regular basis anyway, and we're up checking it, and it's continual.
Cathy McGinty?
And just to what Isabel said, I have reported over the last about 6 weeks, I have been on to the North Lanarkshire website, the communal bin, and I have reported the square 4 times. I've reported one on Johnson Road twice, but they do it, to be fair, they get emptied, but it is ridiculous that you have to keep reporting it. I go on to I was at a meeting last night with Councillor Lennon in Gartcosh and people who stayed down here in Blades Court and Lochside, and they were going on about the bins, how they are, and I told them it's so easy. You go onto North Lanarkshire's website and it says to report a bin, and you go onto the one that says communal bin, you just say where the bin is and ask them to empty it. I mean, they do get emptied, but it is ridiculous that you have to keep reporting it week in, week out, that they're not getting emptied enough, and I feel as if Dad just report bins all the time.
Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, I totally take your point, Cathy. You shouldn't have to be reporting it, and what we should be doing is using that intelligence to actually say, right, there's obviously an issue there, and we do know that that some people are filming the black bags as well. We know that's happening. We know that shops are using them as well, but that's for us to worry about. That shouldn't be for you to worry about. So is that Gartcosh Square, the Johnson Road in Gartcosh, is that right?
Yes, that's the one in the square. And I mean, I do always keep saying that it is in the square and it's on Lock End Road.
Okay.
I mean, as Isabel says, when we were up last week, we picked up the litter, the bin was overflowing, and we tied an empty black bag on the side so that people would use the empty black bag because the bin was full, rather than dump it on the ground.
Yeah, no, that's fine, Kathy, but we should be using this to stop you having the phone all the time.
Aye.
Accept that. So
well, so I just go online and do it online.
I'll take these two back though. Rest assured.
Okay.
Thank you. The next item is Peter McNally, Local Development / Investment.
I think Matt's going to come in first of all, Brandon, thanks.
Right.
Peter, I don't think that's related to a local development programme. I think that's other updates.
Local development programme is later on.
Sorry, Chair, my mistake. I'm jumping ahead in the dark here. The need for a lamp has just been emphasised. Yeah, thanks for that. It was just an opportunity to share any engagement opportunities or consultation that anyone's aware of. One that I had sent out recently was from NHS Lanarkshire around a rehab strategy consultation that I think closed today, but in particular from a carers perspective. And North Lanarkshire Carers Together had taken on that task to get information out. They've asked me to pass on my thanks to MD in the Northern Corridor who responded, because they got a really large number of responses across North Lanarkshire, but also from the Northern Corridor area. So it was really just to say, passing on of the thanks from North Lanarkshire Carers Together. That's all I had on consultations, Chair.
Funding, is that funding opportunities as well? There were 2 points. You had local engagement / consultation, and then funding opportunities.
Indeed it is, Chair. Again, I'm struggling to see in the dark. I'll just get my notes. There's 3 things I wanted to talk about, just to highlight. One we touched on a wee bit earlier was through the North Locality Health and Social Care Consortium. There is funding available through the Local Activity Fund that organisations in the Northern Corridor area can apply for. And there's applications can be up to £5,000 if it's a really well thought through project with long-term objectives. Usually applications come in for smaller amounts. But again, just to emphasise, if anybody's interested, please get in contact with me. Happy to help draft up any application. And a bit similar with our own council environmental fund, which again is available to groups and organisations that can demonstrate effective and ongoing activities and who participate in community-led environmental projects such as litter picks, cleanups and small-scale environmental projects. Funding can be up to £2,000 or £3,000 if submitting a joint application involving 2 or more partners. And again, we're happy to support any application if anyone's needing any support on that. And finally, I've mentioned to a few groups locally, National Lottery Community Fund have their Awards for All programme, which is available up to £10,000. I met with the funding officer, Barry McCormick, and he was keen again to emphasise that Northern Corridor is a cold spot for applications, and he's dead keen to meet with groups that would be interested. And he'll come out and meet and look at an application before any group starts the process. Again, we're happy to support that as well. So yeah, I would just like to emphasise, particularly lottery, if groups are interested, please get in contact. That's a brief funding update, Chair. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions from anybody? Isabel Kelly, you were quick to put your hand up.
Not so much a question, Peter. Wondered if you could get something in the diary regarding some grants and projects.
Absolutely, Isabel. What if I drop you an email later on and with a couple of potential dates, and we'll take it from there?
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you, Peter. Next up, Community Coordinator update. Andrew Mcpherson, you've changed your title.
Yes. Now the previous administration would like a change in the title from Community Champion to Community Coordinator. I'm sure it was no slight on our achievements so far, but just there was a change in title. So yeah, just a quick few things, Brandon, if that's okay. I can just update the group with just some good news. Starting off, we've secured, well, we as in our planning and regeneration team secured £230,000 in vacant and derelict land funding, and that will secure the almost over £250,000 community greening project over in Glen Manor and Moodiesburn. There's a waterfall survey to be undertaken, but procurement will start in August 2022. So hopefully we'll see some works there in the coming year. And for those that don't know, the work that obviously started in Christing Community Hub on the 14th of February with an anticipated completion date there of August 2023. So some good projects that are already started. The next thing I would like to touch on, and I'll circulate details of this, Brandon, later on, is the new sort of petitions process, which has now been established by the council. And it's in light of, we have a new Petitions Subcommittee. So if you bear with me just to try and by way of explanation, any petition that's received by the council going forward, assessment will be made on whether the petition concerns an issue that the council can actually do something about. First of all, should that be the case, then they'll look in whether it actually affects a particular area, a specific geographical area, and then it'll be sent to the appropriate area community partnership manager for further progress. But if it relates to the entire council area, then it will be put or across multiple sort of boards. It will go to the appropriate committee to consider the petition directly. So when the area community partnership manager, when they are considering the petition, if the outcomes could be actioned immediately, then that can be undertaken. But if they consider that it can't be done automatically, then it would go to the actual petition subcommittee. The petition subcommittee would then hear that petition, and they can ask for there's a number of outcomes that come from that. They request for further information and would postpone any decision to a further meeting. They would agree fully or in part with the terms of the petition, and then that would be referred to the appropriate committee to take forward, or they could say that no further action should be taken. So if it's okay with yourself, Brandon, I could perhaps forward this on and we can include that detail in the actual minute of the meeting, if that's okay.
Yes, that would be good.
Fully aware of that. And the final thing, which if you can just bear with me just for another minute or two, just an update on the Steps Community Hub, which I committed to finding out some further information about that and providing an update, because I am conscious that that is has been a long time in coming, especially for obviously the people within the local Steps communities. So I think, as everyone knows, the access to the community spaces is now available for evening lets. Evening lets is not so much an issue. That's from 6 o'clock onwards, and they can book that through the normal processes when booking any sort of community facilities. And that will include the community hall and the 3 general purpose spaces as well. So those are available for evening let. The main concern that we have at the moment, obviously, is the community spaces for daytime lets, and that will include the community library, the community hall, and also the 3 general purpose spaces that are in the facility as well. So, in light of that, the property team will commence engagement with all local community groups, and I think the intention is to meet with the local community council and the parent council over, well, certainly before the end of September, and then they will have plans, approved plans from building standards for the new library facility, which will be reinstated, and also detail how they will try and accommodate daytime lets as well. The problem that they have at the moment, for those, apologies for those that don't know Steps Primary School, that the 2 of the general purpose facilities that are within the school bubble, and it's just trying to protect that school bubble that's causing the concern about how they actually access it during the day. The games hall and the other general purpose room, not so much of an issue because they'll be able to access some of the rear of the premises, so the school will still remain intact. But it's the two general purpose areas that are causing some concern. The other sort of slight issue with it is that the council doesn't actually manage that building. It's one of our PPI schools, so it's actually managed by somebody else at the present time. So there's another hurdle that we have to go through as well to get agreement from them, which then allows us to provide those facilities to the community. So the target is actually to complete all of the works that are going to be involved in this by the end of 2022. So all the facilities that I've just discussed there should be fully available for them. But the key thing, I think, for anyone that has an interest in this, on this the meeting today, is that there will be communication coming out with regards to an engagement meeting with the local community groups. And that's me, Brandon. Thanks very much.
Is there anyone from STEPS that wishes to comment? I know that the STEPS community facility is obviously a very contentious issue. Lorraine?
Hi, thanks, Brandon. Thanks for that update, Andrew. I'm Lorraine Kerr. I'm a resident in the STEPS, but I'm also the chair of our parent council. And this has been an ongoing issue for some time. I noted that you said that the engagement will come with building control presenting an already approved plan. What do you mean? Where is engagement then? Obviously, we wouldn't expect us to be choosing where doors go or whatever, but are we just being presented with the complete FAT and we have to agree or not? Can you give any information on that, Andrew?
I think the input from building standards really around the new library facility, the access and egress, that type of thing. It's the sort of the detail that I think they wanted to get before they went to the actual consultation. So all that will be there at that time. And I think it's to provide the assurance to the parent council, who have perhaps another concern, whereas the community council it's about getting everything sorted and presented at the same time. I think that's the intention, Lorraine.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, security of keeping the community separate from the children is of utmost importance, obviously, and clearly we need to understand what the impact will be in the children as well, given they've already had 2 years of COVID with building works and a lot of real moving around and not knowing if they're coming or going. So it'll be good to eventually have this engagement, which is something that ourselves and obviously Alice and the Community Council have been calling for a considerable period in time.
Yeah.
Alice Morton?
Andrew, it would be helpful for you to provide a written report of your update this evening that can be shared with the Community Council. I've had difficulty hearing you. I don't know if anyone else has had the same experience. Your voice has been very blurred this evening, so I could not hear the detail of what you said. Our Community Council meeting is on the 1st of September, so I would appreciate a report on your update tonight to share with the Community Council. And I have to reiterate that this has been for our community a very poor experience regarding communication and engagement. Despite working closely with the Parent Council, both of us are quite disenchanted and on occasions felt very abandoned by North Lanarkshire Council. And again, all we met were barriers, obstacles to getting answers regarding our community facilities. But you know the story, Andrew, and you know all the record I have of this. So a report, please, and I would imagine, Lorraine, you would also wish a copy of that report for the Parent Council.
Absolutely. Yep.
So in advance of that, thank you, Andrew, if you could forward that as a matter of urgency.
Sorry, Brian, is it okay to come back in there?
Yes, it is, yes.
Well, if I can do better than that, Alice, what I'll do is I'll put providing a report, I think probably we're waiting to what we actually get from the the actual property team on the detail of that. I'm happy to obviously to put the summary of what I've just said there. That's not a problem. I can put that and I'll include that in a minute as well. But if you wanted me to come along to the next community council, Alice, you know, I'm always more than happy to do that, and I'm happy to come along and speak to that in the absence of MD from education. That's not a problem for me to do that.
Thank you.
Isabel Kelly.
Just in case it's escaping anyone's notice, what happened in Steps, and it was quite pertinent what Charles McCabe said at the last presentation. He said that the council legally are required to mitigate planning permission, which North Lanarkshire Council might have refused. And some of the issues that happened in Steps was because it was Greenbelt, because the school had been built with that Greenbelt stated. Some planning permission came in. It was refused by North Lanarkshire Council. The reporter then looked at it. The reporter then passed it based on mitigations that North Lanarkshire provided. And the mitigations they must have provided was to utilise Steps Cultural Centre to improve the capacity of the school. Now, planning has to address that. The council have to address it, because if we have community hubs, say that we have them at the New Christon School and the amount of housing development that's going on, and we have the health clinic there, we could lose that health clinic simply by planning, providing the mitigating circumstances that can allow a school capacity to increase. And this is where things are going through the back door, where quite legitimately North Lanarkshire Council could have planned for items or capacity. And because developers have put planning permission in, reporters then come back, but North Lanarkshire is providing the mitigation circumstances. And if they are legally required to do that, they're no legally required to absolutely implode the community, which is what they do, because community hubs would then be a fallacy. All it is providing flexibility to take those facilities away from communities. So you know, if you've got a community centre sitting next to education facilities, if you've got a community hub, the minute we hit a bump in the road, and it seems to be that housing development is the main driver, then all the plans go out the window. And I can see that it's not North Lanarkshire's fault in that respect, but we have to start looking at how North Lanarkshire is going to respond to reporters, especially in areas where there's been no development being scheduled. And North Lanarkshire has planned for a certain capacity within that community in terms of pupils going to school, facilities that are required, healthcare facilities, and developers are coming in through the back door, and the housing goes ahead and there's no planning to the other facilities. And nobody says, oh, wait a minute, we need additional facilities. And that's what happened exactly in Steps. It's worse in Gartcosh and the community growth area, because the developers just aren't putting in the facilities are there and the triggers are far too late. It'll be 20 years in the making by the time Gartcosh gets any facilities and they're able to make developers leave land there, which they're still going to charge the council anyway because they've not got any land here. So we've got a master plan, and I would love to live in that master plan that was created by North Lanarkshire. We felled a rainforest to create the documentation of a strategic framework that provided this building with new homes and everything that was to be in it. and for it to be a great place to live in. And none of it has came to pass. All we get is houses. And I'm not against new houses. We need new houses. People need places to stay. But you need to plan the amenities and you have to plan the infrastructure, and it's just not happening. And that is what the bone of contention is, especially in the Northern Corridor. We have been let down badly by amenities and infrastructure.
Alice, you have your hand up. Alice Morton.
I'd like to thank Isabel Kelly for her insight and her understanding of what is happening across the Northern Corridor and what we are experiencing on a daily basis. New housing should bring improvements to a community. That's not what's happening. In Steps, we've been penalised because the constant threat of losing our facilities is still with us. North Lanarkshire Council have not provided a long-term plan for the 200 houses that are literally being thrown up at Gateside Farm. This was unplanned housing development. It was not on the local development plan, and we have received in Steps no communication from North Lanarkshire Council to the accommodation of future pupils in Steps Primary School. And we're under no doubt that when that happens, we will be under threat of losing perhaps what we are in a temporary basis being given back. So North Lanarkshire Council needs to sit up and speak to Steps and hear what we have to say, because everyone here at this meeting, be aware, it is, as Isabel says, Gartcosh today and Steps today, but it'll be you tomorrow. So that this cannot go on. We need North Lanarkshire Council to address these issues and work with communities.
Thank you, Alice. Colin.
No, I'm just going to echo what Lorraine and sort of Alice and everybody said. I think it's going to be really interesting when it comes to, I think, Andrew, you commented August 2023. Is that when the school's going to be ready as well, or is that just the hub?
Colin, that's the school as part of the hub.
Yeah, so school will be ready 2023. I think we've already kind of spoke to that, the new acting deputy head, if she's going to be the new head teacher going forward or whatever. And there's all these caveats and the risks and stuff like that. It's going to be really interesting, this kind of shared campus space. It's really interesting.
Lorraine, you had your hand up.
I was just obviously going to echo Isabel and Alice in support of my points as well, but just as an example for those who aren't aware, like when you think about capacity of schools, and I'm sure you are experiencing in your own schools, but Steps was operating with 100 children more than our working capacity for a number of years, and the work that was taking place was to accommodate those children. But on completion of those works, our actual working capacity is now increased by more than 100 again. So we're now up at 400. We were at 360 something, and now the working capacity has been increased to 470. The exact number needs to be confirmed, in fact, because speaking to the head teacher, he had said the capacity was based on us having an additional 4 classrooms, which in fact we don't. We only have an additional 3. So I would imagine that number will go up, say 3 classrooms at 33 kids. It will still go up by another 100, so we'll have went from 376 to 476 roughly that quickly, when our understanding had been that the work that was completed was really to house the extra 100 that had been squeezed in for the last number of years. So this is how quickly these sort of capacities in schools are rising, and it is something to be mindful of for the new school in Christon. I don't know, I think is the capacity of that to be 500 or 600 or something. So this is how these things can change, and that doesn't include obviously the houses that Alice referred to that are being built in close proximity to the school.
Thank you. Diane Delaney.
Hi, yeah, I agree with everything that everyone says so far. It was just a kind of very simple potential solution to some of these issues in relationship to education. Is that I think Alice kind of mentioned earlier on in terms of representation and how the council works for us in terms of the education committee. And given that there is a new administration now, that we as parent council members and parents generally, because we represent the wider parent forum, and I know I can speak confidently on behalf of multiple parent council groups across North Lanarkshire because I'm on multiple groups. Why doesn't the Education Committee reach out to parents? There are so many issues. Melm was a perfect example. It took a huge effort and piece of work from a group of parents to overturn a decision that where parents were not consulted. I know that there are multiple issues across many schools in North Lanarkshire. Parent councils are banging their head off brick walls, and I know this because I'm in the groups that are talking about it. Can the Education Committee reach out to parents as a population group within North Lanarkshire Council? We're talking about empowerment and empowering communities. Parents make up a massive group within North Lanarkshire Council. There's no working together, there's no partnership. That's how we feel. And we really need to be sitting around a table and talking about it. Other local authorities work in partnership with parents. Parents sit in the Education Committee or they sit beside the councils in the Education Committee. We have asked, and we've never had the answer. We've asked repeatedly for a discussion about how parents and the Education Committee and councillors and the council at large can work directly with parents to address these issues so that it's not a them and us all the time. And obviously we understand there are issues that we want that we can't get, but we need our voices to be heard to reduce what some of the issues are. So I put this across again and ask, can the council reach out to parents as a population group, either via parent councils or parents as a wider group, to look at the issues of education, including additional support needs and disabled children, transport, free school meals, poverty, health inequalities. All these issues overlap, and parents are central to these issues, and we need to be at the centre of the Education Committee talking about these things.
Thank you, Diane. Hopefully Andrew will be able to convey that to those concerned who are going to come along to steps at the meetings that are being arranged going forwards. If we move on now, local development programme, I believe you've volunteered to step up, Matt.
Very briefly, Chair, it's just the report was issued just to update on where we are with the current projects in relation to the local development programme, and to highlight the new approach in relation to project proposal forms, etc. And it's just to see if there's any questions in relation to any aspect to that. Myself and the team are happy to pick up on that.
Anybody got any comments on the local development programme? I think it was circulated with the papers, so you've had a good chance to read through. Anne-Marie.
Thanks, Brandon. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, yes, thank you.
Super.
And see you now.
I just wanted to ask, I did have a wee look over the minutes and the documentation that was there, and with regards to the local development plan and for the running track, which is in Frankfield Park in Cardown, and the environmental fund that's allocated to our area, I see that it's noted that it's in partnership with the Coalfield Regeneration Trust. Just to clarify, the funds that they have has actually been allocated to Cardown Community Meadow. So proceeding with those issues, it would be in partnership with Cardown Community Meadow, not the Coalfield Regeneration Trust, or at least note them within that document. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Fine, we'll note that, Chair. Thanks, Anne-Marie.
Alice Mawson, you have your hand up.
Thanks, Brandon. It was just to you, Matt. I see that the tendering for the play park at Dunalister Drive will happen again. The re-tendering is it now, next month, the end of this month?
The process for that is ongoing at the moment, Alice, and we're looking to, I think I mentioned before, that there's been some issues in relation to tendering for play, given some of the challenges surrounding the number of play facilities that have been undertaken, not just by this council, but a number of councils. But it is ongoing at the moment. We're pulling together all the tender documentation, and we're hoping to have that progressed over the next few weeks. But once I will ensure there's a further update given to progress on that out with the community board cycle. I know you've got a real interest in that, Alice. I'll ensure we get an update to yourself and to the community board.
Matt, thank you for the previous update, and I would welcome a further one, and we'll share it with the residents down at Mcpherson.
No problem at all. I'll get that organised, Alice, as soon as there's something to feedback on.
Thank you. Peter, have you said Matt was up first. Do you have anything else to add?
No, that was just in case there was any specific queries, but really just to maybe end on the LDP, but say with thanks to everybody that's engaged with us to help move things forward. I know there was some delays and some obstacles, and through the support of the communities in all the areas, we're starting to take things forward, and just wanted to say thanks on behalf of the team for that.
Thank you. Any other questions on LDP? And finally, or the penultimate item, any other competent business? I think we just about captured everything. Isabel Kelly. Gosh, all these hands going up quickly. Isabel, you got in first. Isabel, you must be on mute.
Just a quick note to Peter. Peter, I sent you an email and it's regarding funding for the forum. I wonder if you can look at that quite urgently and get back to us and let us know where the funding is for the forum. There was specific funding. We've had rumours, not really confirmed, but we'd like it confirmed that the forum's no longer going to be funded. So I would like to know if that's correct, or if it's not, where we can pop in the appropriate forum for the funding.
Do you want to respond, Peter?
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Possibly sent it to the wrong email address. Isabel, I did send something the other day. The council had stopped funding community forums several years ago, and I checked with NHS Lanarkshire, who'd latterly been funding community forums, and the response came back that they'd stopped that. I think it was in 2020. So unfortunately, no, there isn't any funding available from either council or NHS.
So how are they expected to run then?
Certainly, if it's something we can talk about in terms of maybe external funding and getting a chat about some of the activities, I think that might be the avenue, Isabel. It appears there's no statutory funding available at all, unfortunately.
I mean, even if you're a community organisation, North Lanarkshire Council gave you £200 in administration.
I think the only thing that might be available is the community grants option, potentially to get some bit of funding for maybe admin costs and other things you need to do, maybe other bigger stuff, looking at external stuff, maybe like it was for all, unfortunately.
Okay, right, we can discuss that. No point in beating the drum if that's it. But it gives a clear message that we really don't want forums, doesn't it? I'll leave it at that, let's say.
Thank you, Isabel. Christine Boyle, you have your hand up.
Yes, thanks, Brandon. Just a very quick update from Maureen Kinloch, just to let people know that the Green Space PB public vote is now open. The link to the website includes summaries of the shortlisted projects and a voting form. And that is available on Green Space Participatory Budgeting at North Lanarkshire Council. And we'll get that information sent out in terms of the link to that as well. We'll pass that on to everyone. That's all I have. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Colin?
It was just about the works on the kind of main road in Christon. Isn't it incredible? It's a 50-day work period. They start it just a week before the schools go back. All right, 50 days. And who plans these things? It's just the traffic coming from Wednesday, coming from whatever. It's just, who plans these things? And the timing is just unbelievable.
Not sure. I don't know if Andrew can convey that to the people responsible for roads.
Yeah, I mean, it would be planned by a roads team. I'm assuming it is this isn't a.
So water improvements. It's just like,
right.
I think they would have kind of started that thought about given the high traffic in that area and kind of thought, right, okay, let's start it.
Yeah, if the problem is if it's a utility company really come in and do the works when they want to do the works. It's not really controlled by a roads department. We've got the same problem that you have to really wait until they're ready to do things, and because they've got statutory powers to come in and do whatever they need to do. So sometimes it works, and sometimes it seems ridiculous when they do it.
It's just the inconvenience, the traffic, the four-way traffic thing. It's bad enough. Never mind these kind of works, but I suppose at the end of the day, it's all improving infrastructure. But I suppose there's never a right time and the wrong. I mean, there's never when is the right time. But I think if they kind of planned it at the start of the holidays, it would have took some of the heat off rather than it straight back to a week before the schools went back.
I appreciate that as well, but I suppose they do plan. There's a whole range of works go on during the school holidays, and then I suppose there's only a limit to the levels of work, and maybe this one there was a more pressing one that needed to get done elsewhere. Colin, I can't really say, to be honest.
Also, as I say, it'd be good to get the Chrysler Play Park as well opened. The kids are back to school. It's been great not having a play park as well. So that'll be welcome when it opens in the next few weeks.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you.
And Anne-Marie Kirkland, you've got your hand up.
Thanks, Brandon. Any other competent business? I'm really not sure where to start, so I'm just going to start at the very beginning. Cardown Community Meadow is now coming up on 3 years of existence, and from day one we've really tried to engage with what is our community council. Now our partnership team, obviously Peter and Christine, have been transferred over and we've had a change in who's dealing with issues and what have you, but Cardown Community Meadow has brought forward so many ideas. We've identified spaces in our community that are not utilised. We have ideas and plans in place for what those areas are not being utilised for and how they can be improved with private funding, so nothing needs to come out of North Lanarkshire's pocket. And we have a garden space now that I believe has actually been noted in some paperwork there. Something was relayed to me, but I've not actually seen it, about North Lanarkshire promoting the partnership that has happened with ourselves around the garden space. Now, the garden space happened because the residents of our community were sick waiting, and they decided to go ahead and do it themselves. And then we got the paperwork in place. So it's up and running and has been utilised by members of our community. We do not have a management plan agreement in place. Nothing has been transferred over to us. There is a lock-up situation where we were stated that there would be a VAT-free charge for it, which has now been reneged, and the missive that's been passed to us is stating a full price. I know the guys have it in hand and are trying to deal with it, but we haven't had a response to that. For now 2.5 years, we have had funding in place for an active travel hub unit, which we identified all the spaces for. We sent maps over to the council. We've done everything that was asked of us, and still there's nothing being relayed there. So it just seems to be issue after issue after issue. I'm attending these meetings, and it is the same issues that have been raised time and time again. There's money being spent right, left and centre on unnecessary things, and agreeing with everything that all the ladies and the residents of this area of the Northern Corridor are raising tonight. People's time has been heavily wasted. We've all got lots more that we could be doing in these 2 hours, 3 hours that we sit on these meetings, and things need to change, and they need to change fast. There is a word called anarchy and activism, and that's what's going to need to come for to make change in the area of Cardown. That's what I'm speaking for. So these issues need to be picked up immediately, ASAP, and they need to be actioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. And Alice Morton.
Thank you, Brandon. Just 2 very brief comments. I want to pick up on Isabel's previous remarks about support for forums. I joined the People and Communities Committee earlier this week, and a councillor spoke. The councillor had attended Cumbernauld Community Forum. There are only 3 existing community forums across North Lanarkshire. There's Kilsyth, Cumbernauld and the Northern Corridor community forums. And the councillor at the People and Communities Committee raised concerns from Cumbernauld Forum about lack of support, and there was a feeling afoot that the boards were replacing forums. Now, at that meeting, Leanne Pollock, I can't quite remember her comment, but Matt, if you're still here in the meeting, you did speak to that, Matt, and you mentioned that there is support for forums, or forums are supported. And really, Mark, we don't appear to be supported, and I would like you maybe to get back to the forum with any types of support that you can offer. Do you remember that councillor speaking to this during the week, Matt?
Yep, I do, Chair. This was raised at the People and Communities Committee on Monday, and what we did say that we understood at the time in terms of the forums and the issues that have been faced by forums, and what we did say in terms of the community partnership team, that we could provide support in relation to capacity building in terms of the work that they're undertaking in local areas, to see what support we as a team could provide, not in relation to any financial support, unfortunately, but certainly in terms of support from our team. If there is anything we can do there to assist with grant applications, etc., as Peter's already alluded to in discussions earlier on there, this is something we would be happy to do, as we would do with any other community group. And that's certainly the approach we would be more than happy to take.
Thanks, Matt. But of course, if we don't have funding, it's pretty impossible to do a lot. However, the last comment, Brandon, is we have been told we will have face-to-face, in-person meetings, and this has still not happened. And at the recent forum meeting, Councillor Greg Lennon was going to ask why there cannot be hybrid meetings, and we've still not had an answer to that. And I'm sure you're all weary of these online meetings. So the question is, when will in-person meetings for the community board happen?
Thank you, Alice. I would hope that the next one would definitely be in person. We will get to that in a few moments. Matt, you've put your hand up again.
Yeah, just to briefly update on that, Chair, we are working with our IT team at the moment to try and determine a new approach to having a hybrid approach to community boards, because we've had a lot of people who like to join online, and we don't want to remove that option for people in the future. So any meetings we have in the future, we do want to come back to face-to-face meetings, but also have the option for live streaming those meetings and to have an option for people to join online. We're working out the best way to do that, and hopefully by the next cycle that will be in place. We can't guarantee it at this stage, but we'll certainly endeavour. We're working on that just now, and if we can get that in place for the next cycle, that's what will go ahead at that point.
My only comment, Matt, is I've been involved in events that have been spread across several continents, and they have been both hybrid and online. So I don't understand why the North Lanarkshire Council can't do it.
I'm not saying we can't do it, Brandon. We're saying we're working on the best model to allow us to do it effectively. It allows us to live stream and have hybrid approach to that. We're not in any way dragging our heels on it. If we could do it this cycle, we would have done it this cycle. We're committed to doing it, and we will get back to it as soon as we can.
Thank you. And Anne-Marie, you've put your hand up again, second bite of the cherry.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to know if any of the officers from NLC had any comments to make with regards to the issues experienced here in Cardown.
Anne-Marie, if Brandon, if it's okay, I'll come back to Anne-Marie on that. Anne-Marie, I know you appreciate you have raised those issues with us, and you know that we're working on it, and we'll get back to you as soon as we've got responses to that. Be assured that we will look into all of these things, and we are doing that. Okay, thank you.
I do understand that you have to wait on responses from different departments, but when we're getting close to 3 years down the line for some of these things that have been raised with you, you know, I think that's quite enough time for a response. And when you haven't had anything relayed to you with regards to some of these things, then it's very frustrating.
Anne-Marie, I totally understand that, but we've not been here for 3 years, and since you've raised them with us, we're looking into it, and we will get back to you on that as soon as we can.
I appreciate that, Christine.
Cheers.
Thank you.
And Isabel Kelly. Isabel, you've got your hand up.
Just a quick comment to Matt. We can look at council meetings, Matt, where there's councillors in the chamber and there's councillors working at home. So the council has great experience of hybrid meetings. So I would really think that we most certainly have the model that you want to put forward dusted and operational by the time we have the next meeting, because they're operating a hybrid meeting. I've watched them. There's been people in the council and there's been people at home, and that's exactly how it would work with the boards. So I can't really see why we had yet again an online meeting exclusively. I think it's just people are dragging their feet on it.
No, can I come back in again, Chair, just to say we're not dragging our feet on it. The system that's used in the council chamber is not suitable for taking it out to a local community area. That's the technical advice that we've been given. I can give you an assurance on that, Isabel. We're absolutely not dragging our feet on it. That system can't be used in a community setting. They're working on a system just now to do that. Once we have that in place, I can assure you we'll take it forward as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And I will move on now. And what's this? Keep watching different bits of chat. Oh, right. Thank you, Alice. I was about to say the final bit of the jigsaw is obviously the time and date of the next meeting. Obviously, the next meeting will be in November. The date is yet to be confirmed. However, as you've already got the impression, the feeling of this group is that it should be both in person and online to allow for the widest possible access to people within the Northern Corridor. I'm very keen that it's held within the Northern Corridor so that, shall we say, local residents who maybe don't join us online can actually come along and hear what we have to say. So that, I think, is a very important thing that we should be doing. I noticed that, Diane, you've put your hand up. So if you can come in quickly, that would be good.
So I'm sorry, I thought I had my hands up before and I realised I didn't have my hands up. It was just a quick question to Andrew, sorry, regarding Steps Primary School. I just wasn't clear what he said in terms of communicating the information out about the school to the wider Steps Primary School. Will there be communication directly to the school? Or, you know, how is the information going to be conveyed to the school community about what he said tonight? Because we're quite disappointed to be hearing it only just tonight. So we're just looking for some assurances that there will be a formal communication sent to the entire school community so that information is clear. Sorry if I missed that earlier on.
Well, that's okay, Diane. What I wanted to do is to give a very brief overview, Diane, as to where we are at the current time, and I'll include that will be sent off and it'll be included in the minute of this meeting. But rather than just a very brief summary, I think the property team that are taking forward the actual adaptations and the consultations with yourself, they'll provide more detailed information, and that will come out directly to the school, to the parent council, to the community council, and it'll all come from one place. So if it's okay with yourself, Diane, I'll leave it with the property team to put out that detailed information, and that will be coming out with, well, the meeting will be by the end of September, so you would expect to see that within the the next 3 weeks thereabouts.
you'll appreciate that parents are really anxious, and we've got an annual general meeting coming up. Can we contact you so that we can convey information clearly to parents, not misrepresent anything? So is it okay if we send you an email so we can get even a statement that we can share with parents at the AGM? There's a lot of very anxious parents looking for information. So we really feel that given the information was shared tonight, we have to share the information with them.
No
Is that
problem.
okay?
I can give you that I can give you a summary of just what I've said. That's not an issue, Diane.
Much appreciated. Thanks.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you. And finally, it's my opportunity to thank all of you for giving your time and energy and your thoughts and comments being brought to this meeting tonight. I notice I've now gone completely in the dark. My lights haven't come on as they should have done, so you can't even see me. But thank you very much for coming along to this meeting and your contributions. And I look forward to seeing you at the next meeting in November. Oh, that's Colin just clapping. Thank you very much, and have a very good evening with what's remaining of it.
Thanks and good night.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much.
Everyone. Good night.
Good night.